Welcome to the Opt-in Podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Franks, and this is where we go from surviving to thriving in business. I have had the opportunity to be interviewed by multiple podcast hosts at this point, and they always ask me the same question. How does a business owner know, or a small business know, that it's time to hire a fractional COO? And it's a really great question because there's nuance to it, and there's not like a big flashing sign that comes up and says, hey, guess what? You're at the place where you need to hire somebody. What's also really interesting is all of the businesses that we work with at On Call COO, they all come forward and we meet and begin working together when they know that they need help. And usually they self-diagnose and know to jump in without a lot of expertise. And the conversation starts a little like this. Here's where we're challenged. Is this something you can help with? Nobody's really sure. So today's podcast is all about what a fractional COO is, and we'll probably dabble a little bit into, at the beginning, what fractional executives are and are not, and how to vet them and then determine what the right fit for your business is. The really cool thing about being a small business is that you can hire exactly what you need, either temporarily or forever and ever and ever. Big corporations are strapped by the structure that they have put in place, the organizational hierarchy that they have, and they lose the ability to be nimble and flexible. In fact, when I was thinking about becoming a fractional COO after a good amount of time being a traditional COO inside of traditional businesses, I really thought about one of my friends who had been doing this for a while. I had met her in a women's professional network, and she was a HR or people officer, and she was a fractional executive, and she took interim assignments. So what her specialization was to go into big companies. She worked for Weight Watchers as an example, and replaced the executive that had left or vacated the position until they found a new one. So she just really kind of stepped in and wore the job on a part-time basis and not 40 hours a week until they could find the right next hire for themselves. And she did that with, one company at a time. And as I was considering if that was an option, I also looked at the small business landscape and realized that small businesses could really benefit from slivers and slices of seasoned credential executives to help them move the needle or get over an obstacle or unlock growth in new and different ways. And it was an area that was underserved, or at least it was underserved by people that had been there, done that, and had the credentials to do it. And when you're looking, if you're in a position for a fractional executive, if you're in a position of being a small business, and I want to preface this a few different ways because I think that it's important. Sometimes people say, what is a small business? What does that actually mean? Well, for the purposes of today's conversation, and it's different depending on the context, I define a small business as any business that's really under 100 employees and really kind of under that $20 to $30 million mark. It really depends on what sort of business you are before you start to really need full-time executive support across the executive job family. And the reason for that is that there are some companies that have a lower revenue profile or a lower profit margin. Maybe they're early 8-figure entrants and they have hundreds of employees. Software as a service companies are some of those. Early technology startups are also those that have an entire army of development staff and creatives and salespeople. And then there are other businesses that can be in the multiple 8 figures and they're really lean. They can have 5 or maybe 10 employees. They can really operate with a small skeleton crew because of what they do. And sometimes that's professional services. Sometimes that is e-commerce businesses where it's relatively easy to do that as well. It just really depends. So for the purposes of today's discussion, we're talking about businesses that have less than 100 employees and we're really kind of below that $20 million threshold. Everything kind of falls into that space. And then for the purposes of today's discussion, I also like to talk about businesses and their various growth stages. And when you are climbing to $1 million, you are really still figuring things out. You are determining who your customers are, who your repeat customers are. You're figuring out what exactly you're selling, what price things should be at. You're figuring out all of your internal processes. That climb from 0 to 1,000,000 is your testing ground. And then once you get to 1,000,000, that move from 1 to 3, and yes, I'm being specific, is where you prove it. So once you know what your business model is and who you're selling to and who you're serving, going from 1 to 3 million is where you prove that you can do it over and over and over and over again and get the same results and increase the business size. Usually at around 3 million, it's when things start to break. As you scale, the things that worked at 100,000 or 1,000,000 no longer work at 3 and 4 million, and that's totally normal. It's also the place where you, as the business owner or the CEO or the leader of the organization, start to identify that the business has outgrown the general skills that you have. Now, I'm going to pause here and say that every single human on the planet has a set of specialized skills. Everybody does. They're what you're really, really strong at, what you could do in your sleep, what you could do over and over and over again. Generally, it's the stuff you love to do because we all like to do things that we're good at. We don't like to do things that we're bad at. Just human nature. And when your business starts to grow or the business that you're running starts to grow, eventually the general skills that you have that are not a part of your specialization start to be a hindrance to the future of the business. And knowing when that pivot point is, when that tipping point is critical, because once you get there, then you need to determine who you need help from. And it's not necessarily good enough to hire a junior person that has good specialization because your business is too big. So while I can't talk about being a fractional CFO, while I can't talk about being a fractional people officer, what I can tell you is that there are 2 types of fractional executives that will come into your business. One is the type of fractional executive that strategizes and describes what should occur and then lets you do it. The other is one that does both, that comes in and assesses and determines and builds a strategy and then executes it with your team or with an augmented team from their company or other people that they know. And what you need to determine is, do you want somebody to tell you what to do, or do you want somebody to tell you, to partner with you, determine what to do, and then do it for you? It's really up to you. The world is your oyster. You can definitely get a seasoned, experienced, credential, fractional executive inside of your business that will give you lots of thoughts and opinions and strategies and best practices, and then leave it up to you to decide. I always err on the side of, if you're looking for help, then you want it done. And so that's why at On Call COO, we offer both. You have the choice to not take both, but we do offer both to ensure that what the results that you're expecting actually come to life in a permanent way inside of your business. So how do you know, that's how we got here, that it's time to hire a fractional COO? In this case, I'm going to run you through specifically the top 8 reasons that you know that it's time for a fractional COO. There are many, many more, but maybe this will help you kind of figure out, am I in the space where I should start to consider support? The very first one is that you are the bottleneck. Yep, everything goes through you. Everything, all decisions, all approvals, you solve every single problem. You are so far into the weeds that you don't even know where the sky is anymore. You are in the way of progress and growth. And part of the reason for that is because you don't have enough time to do what you're gifted at. You don't have enough time to sell or come up with new strategies. You're so busy running the business and have your hands in everything that you can't get yourself to the next mile marker. It's going to slow your growth down and stall it eventually. Do you know what else it's going to do? It's going to frustrate the people that work for you. They are going to feel micromanaged. They are going to feel like they don't have authority or autonomy. They're going to start looking for other places to go where their expertise is valued and they can really make an impact. If you find yourself spending most of your time double checking work, doing things yourself because it would be faster when you have somebody that you're paying to do it anyway, it might be time to get a fractional COO inside of your business to help you become more efficient define standard operating procedures and some controls so that your business runs without you in the day-to-day, and you have peace of mind that it's running the way that you want it to with the results that you're expecting. The second key to potentially needing a fractional COO is that you have a vision and you have no plan. Sit with that for a minute. You know exactly where you want the business to go. You have this big picture idea of where it's going to be and the impact you're going to make and all of the things. And you have no idea how to get there. You have no roadmap. You have no goals set. And you're not even sure if the actions you're taking today are moving you closer or farther away. That is exactly when a fractional COO can come in. That's exactly when a business strategist can sit down with you and say, let's talk about the vision. Where are we right now? And what's the next right move? What's the next right step? And then help you determine what the roadmap is and work side by side with you to get it moving and done. This looks different for every business. Sometimes it requires hiring and restructuring the organization. Sometimes it requires just setting goals for people and letting them run. Sometimes it requires cash infusion. Sometimes it requires pulling the owner out of the weeds and getting them up to do other things. The plans are always different. If you are in a position where you know exactly, this is where we're headed, this is the vision, this is the goal, this is where we want to get to, and you just are stalled because you don't know what to do next, it's time to phone a friend and get a little bit of help taking that vision and bringing it to life. The third way that you know that it's time for a fractional COO is that your team keeps asking, what's the priority? So what that is telling you is that everybody is working really, really hard. They're just not sure that they're all working in concert together, and they're even more concerned that they're not doing what you want them to be doing. When your team isn't clear on the priorities, or the priorities that they are setting are different than the priorities that you're expecting, it just means that there's not operational structure. It means that there's not a clear rhythm inside of the business. It means that there isn't a clear process or system for communicating what the goals are and what the priorities are, and then adjusting based on real-time information. Often in small business, unexpected things occur on a daily basis, and you have to pivot and move. One of my clients, in fact, and I can give this example, we have been over time really kind of turning the cruise ship with the business and testing some pricing strategies and some other things. And we hit, midweek last week, literally, and realized that we wanted to do some advertising for an event that they had coming up. And we had 24 hours to do it. And that wasn't a part of the plan. It was on nobody's priority list. But what we were looking at was the business information and saying, hey, we really need to put a concerted effort over here, even though we didn't plan to, and we had to shift priorities. And because there is structure and process in place, it was very easy and quick to communicate to everybody, this is the thing that we've got to run towards for the next couple of days, put everything else down, we'll pick it up next week. And then also what it allowed us to do is a little bit of a lessons learned and shift those run the business processes going forward so that we're always considering that as we move. That took us moments, hours, not weeks or months. And that's because there was a structure and a rhythm to how the business was running. And we were able to make a slight adjustment based on business need and keep going without a massive disruption. So if your team is asking you what the priorities are, or their priorities are not your priorities, it means that it would be helpful to get somebody into your business that's more process and system oriented, that can help translate between the two groups and make sure that everybody stays on the same page, moving towards the same goals. The fourth way that you know that it might be time for a fractional COO is that you're growing and it is painful. Your revenue is up. That's fantastic. And so are the mistakes. As you are earning more, you are seeing more miscommunications. You're seeing your team totally burnt out. Systems are breaking. Your customers are providing constructive feedback. Things are painful. You are in firefighting mode. You are waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and worried about whether this growth period is going to continue. You're starting to think that you're self-sabotage. Growth is starting to hurt, and that's because you don't know how to harness it. You don't know how to capitalize on it. And that's okay, because it just means it's not your strength. It means it's not your area of specialization. And that's where a fractional COO can come in, because that's the fun stuff for them. Taking a look at exactly where the pain points are and then bringing just-in-time, right-sized solutions so that you can have some peace and celebrate that your business is growing. Your employees have consistency and they understand how to work. They're not burnt out, and your business can continue to scale as you grow. That's exactly some of the expertise that an operations leader can bring into your business. The key is finding the right operations leader that is growth oriented, because there are different ones, and we'll talk about that as we wrap up once we get through these 8. The 5th way that you might know that you're ready is that you're not using your time wisely. You're spending hours and hours and hours on things that are not moving the needle. Somebody else should be doing this. You either need to hire somebody, or you need to get a project manager, or you need some technology. You're fixing broken processes. Like, you're literally tuning up the car when not only should you be driving it, but you should be planning the road trip. So if you are in a place where you know that you're not using your time wisely, or you are spending your time with like low-hanging fruit because you are avoiding the things that you know really need to happen because maybe you don't know what to do about it, here's your sign. It is time for a fractional COO. The 6th way that it might be time is that you've hired great people and they still need you for everything. They are the A players, the rock stars, the absolute best and brightest. And they're looking to you to coordinate everything. They're looking to you to ensure that the rest of the team is doing their pieces. They're looking to you to make sure that dependencies are managed. They are looking to you to hold them accountable. If you're not seeing the autonomy you expected from hiring these rock stars, it might be because you, as the leader, don't know how to give it. And there's a lot of solutions for this. There's a lot of root causes to why you have amazing people and they're not performing the way that you would expect, and they're not working how you would expect them to work. And it generally comes down to they need to understand the structure and the boundaries. Clear as kind is one of the things that Brene Brown says. And this is more than a job description. This is the rhythm and the flow of how the business operates. This is when they need you, because that's too big for them to decide on their own, and when they can just go ahead and figure it out themselves. You have amazing people. The business and you are getting in their way from doing what they do best because they don't have clarity. So this is when a seasoned executive can come in and make sure that the team is organized in the right way, that they have collaboration tools and capabilities in the right way, that there is project planning that allows them to understand dependencies, that they can take any ideas that you have and really bring to fruition because they have all of the bits and pieces and all of the rockstar skills that you need. They're just struggling to coordinate and work together without you involved. And that's where fractional COO comes in. The 7th is that you want to scale, and it scares the holy heck out of you because you're worried it's not sustainable. You are past the hustle. You know that it took grit and determination when you were a solopreneur, but now you have a team. And you want to start leading the company. You want to build an empire. You want it to run smoothly. You want it to grow as you intend. You don't want to burn yourself out, or maybe you are already burnt out. You are seeing the growth potential and you're worried if you capitalize on it, it's going to kill you. You're worried if you capitalize on it, you're going to miss your children's childhoods. You're worried if you capitalize on it that you're going to damage your relationships. You're worried about your health. You are so concerned to take the leap to scale and grow the business because you know that you cannot continue to operate this way. That's when you need help. That is one of the very best times to bring in a fractional COO because you didn't start the business to run the business. We, fractional COOs, love running businesses. That's what we're best at. So you can scale in a sustainable fashion when you have the right structure and support in place. A fractional COO can give you that for the long term. They can work with you for years and years and years and really help you run the business so it allows you freedom and the life that you expected. Or they can come in and help make sure that the business is structured and then give you the keys and let you drive the car. It's really up to you. But if you were afraid to scale and you were watching your business grow and you know you could, if you just got outside of that fear, it's time to bring in some senior leadership support to bring that to life. And then number 8, so the very last one, is that you have tried hiring operations help before. Maybe you even have an operator inside of your business and it didn't stick. You hired an operator or a VA or a director of operations or an integrator, and it just didn't work out. They didn't do what you thought that they should do. They were stuck in the weeds. They couldn't direct the team. Like, there's often a lot of different reasons why an operations professional struggles inside of a small business. And often it's because the individual that was brought in is not a seasoned operations professional and does not have the ability to look forward and anticipate what's needed and pivot. And so they do what they know how to do, and it may not be the right thing for the business. And they are looking to you, the business owner, to tell them what to do. And the reason you hired them is because you don't know what to do. And so it becomes this vicious cycle. So this is a conversation I have a lot. In fact, one of the clients that we're working with right now did have an operations professional working for them. And before we started working with them, they separated with them, and they're pretty gun shy, rightfully so. And what it really came down to is that a fractional COO brings 2 things. They bring operational expertise and they bring strategic expertise. So what a fractional COO was able to do is take your vision and break it into a plan, and then direct and steer all of the activity, one time and recurring, that need to happen in order to bring that vision to life. They are able to take the things that you can't articulate well and bring them into results-oriented actions. And an operator, an operations manager, an operations director, they just can't do that. And it's not because they don't have the aptitude or the intellect, it's because they don't have the experience. See, the thing with credentialed, seasoned COOs, and we're going to talk about that in just a second before we wrap up, is that they have worked through all of the levels of operation. And so they know how to do the tasks, and they also have spent time building the strategy. And so when they have to take the strategy and get it to the task level, their brain knows how to do that because they've lived it. This is where lived experience comes into play. So it's okay if you have tried to get help before and it didn't work. It just means you got the wrong help. This is exactly the same as I think something I said earlier, which is there are multiple types of COOs. You need to understand what strengths you need in a COO. I like to say all of the time that COOs are chameleons. The very best ones are, because they come into a business and they leverage the strengths that they have that the CEOs are weak in. So if a CEO is weak in sales, the COO is incredibly strong in sales. If the CEO is weak in people management and relationship building, the COO is really strong in that. Together, the CEO and the COO, the business owner and the COO, you are one complete organism that has excellence in all of the business functions. And what's really cool about COOs that have been doing this for a long time is that they can be nimble and they can assimilate into the organization. And so they don't need to use all of their strengths. They just need to use the strengths that augment you. And that's something unique and different that an operations director, an operations specialist, an operations manager just can't do it, because they don't have the lived experience. So let's talk about that for a second. So the last thing I want to talk to you about as we wrap up, if you're really considering a fractional COO, so I want you to do your homework. You can work with a fractional COO in a variety of ways. So there are staffing agencies out there, which you'll get into a sales call, they'll talk to you, and then they'll just place somebody. You might be able to meet them and get a vibe check, you might not. So this is a little bit of like blind dating. You know, hopefully it works out. Hopefully they vetted their people. Hopefully they've understood everything correctly, and that's what you get. There are individual consultants, so you can actually go find people that have a single shingle. That's how I like to refer to it. And you can talk to them and see if it's a good fit. You can see where they're strong. You can see where they're weak. And then there's us, On Call COO, which we're slightly different. We are absolutely a consulting and advisory firm, and we also aren't a staffing agency. So we're real humans, and we identify COOs that can work with clients based on what they need. And we ensure that there's a good fit all the way around, that there's a relationship built before anybody begins an engagement. And depending on what you need, we come forward not only with COOs, but additional specialists to help you as you need. We function as a brain trust. So you basically get a whole bunch of COOs and business specialists and not just one, because we work together as a team without competition. And so there's a variety of ways that you can find support and help. You just have to look. But what I want to talk to you about is how you make sure they're the real deal. Because in this land of the digital age, everybody can create titles for themselves however they want, and there's no verification of if that title actually matched what they were doing. It's just reality. You can absolutely give yourself a glow up on LinkedIn or any documents you have, because there's just not a database out there where you can verify, right? If somebody is a lawyer, you can verify that they are licensed. If somebody is a CPA, you can verify if they are licensed. Most other positions, you're just trusting that what people are telling you is true. And that's why when you're hiring a fractional executive of any kind, you need to verify their credentials. So you need to do some diligence. You need to go to LinkedIn, or you need to ask for a resume, or you need to ask for references, or you need to cull through their social media. Like, you need to spend some time verifying that the people have the credentials that they're saying, because a fractional COO is somebody who has been a COO somewhere for some time. And so if you find that somebody is now a fractional COO, and when they were a COO, they worked for a business that was $1 million and had 2 employees, and they were there for 4 or 5 years, and you are a $10 million business with 25 employees, you have to decide if this person's the right fit for you. They may be fantastic for those $1 million businesses. They may not have the skill set that you need if you want to go from 10 to 20 million. And this is where using your logic and common sense comes in. So I often recommend to anybody to make sure that those credentials are real. Make sure the work experience is real. And that when they are speaking with you, they are very clear with very real examples of how they have delivered the results that you're looking to have. If you're looking to turn around your business, have them talk to you about how they have turned around businesses. Looking to sell your business in the next few years, talk to them how they have managed the sale process. If you know that you have a merger coming up, talk about that. If you know that you want to go get investors, make sure that person has experience pitching and getting investment funds. You want to make sure that the person that you are going to work with to help you achieve whatever results and vision that you are looking to has done it for other people, has done it for other businesses that are similar to yours. They may not be in the same industry, but dang it, they need to be the same size. They need to have the same level of complexity, line, and goals. And the longer you are an operations executive or a COO inside of other businesses, the more depth of expertise you have. I have 25 years of operations experience. 25. I have sold multiple billion-dollar companies. I have broken apart billion-dollar companies and put them back together. I have launched startup as a service businesses. I have turned around businesses. I have worked, and I could go on and on and on, right? Because it's 25 years of delivering those things. My last COO role inside of corporate, I was managing an annual budget spend of $180 million. I also have been working with teams where their annual spend is tens of thousands of dollars. And so I share all of that to say, do your homework. Ask the questions. Ask them to show you, tell you. They don't need to say who the company is, but they need to talk you through, and you need to verify and use your intuition to say, does this sound correct? So that's my cautionary tale to you. If you've decided a fractional COO is what you need to do next, because we've run through these 8 things and one or more of these apply to you, go verify credentials. On Call COO always offers a free 30-minute consultation. If you are considering this level of support, if you're wondering if this is right for you, schedule a call with us. No BS. We'll tell you exactly from our perspective what we think you need. And if it's not us, we'll refer you to who it is. Good luck. And just know that if you're not ready for a fractional COO, keep doing what you're doing because you will be one day. Until we meet again, friends, please know you are wise and you are strong and you are capable, and I believe in you.